Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Beef producers from across the country are gathering this week in New Orleans for the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. We'll bring you some of the sights and sounds as this important event gets underway.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Thanks for joining us as we bring you special coverage from the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show here in New Orleans. Although the convention kicks off tomorrow, it's not too late to join us. Walk-in registrations are accepted all the way through Friday, and you can even purchase a one-day pass if you just want to make a quick visit and check out the trade show. Now, this is a one-of-a-kind, can't-miss event, as thousands of cattle producers come together for a mix of business, education, and networking. But there's also important work to be done, as NCBA policy committees meet to discuss the issues that directly affect cattle producers. We had a chance to ask some of the committee leaders how the meetings here in New Orleans will impact their work. Here's what they had to say.
Policy work takes place year-round, and in New Orleans, we'll put some of that policy into words, and the staff will take that and run with it. They have a policy book which is established meeting over meeting, and that provides direction for the annual staff work.
So NCBA Cattle Convention is one of the most exciting things that events that I get to attend every year. You know, not only for the networking opportunity, but also for the policy making. The 7 policy committees have a number of policies that will hopefully come forth here at the annual convention.
It does start at the committee, and it starts with members, and then it goes through the committee, and that's how our policy for this organization, it drives the policy. The folks administering the policy, look to those committee groups for guidance and basically lay out a roadmap.
It is the most important thing that we do because, as you know, our association is policy driven. And so what we do in those rooms, that's so important because it gives direction to our staff in our DC office, gives direction to our staff in our Denver office. And so that policy is so very important.
We're looking at maybe addressing some policy issues as it relates to traceability. A lot of work went into that. A lot of work has been done in the past. It's not something that's come up in recent time. There's been several people devote time and energy over the years to the issue. Hopefully, we'll get this thing across the finish line this go around, given where we are. But that's probably one of the main things that's going to be addressed at this meeting coming up in New Orleans.
One of the biggest things ahead of the Ag and Food Policy Committee will be the Farm Bill that will be reauthorized this year. We're taking a close look at any proposals that are coming forward, making sure that whatever is proposed out there that we are at the front of the discussion and help and shape things in the Farm Bill to the benefit of our producers.
Now, one topic of conversation this week will be the Farm Bill. Joining me now is U.S. Representative Glenn Thompson, who serves as the chair of the House Ag Committee. Chairman Thompson, you recently hosted a Farm Bill discussion with cattle producers and other agricultural leaders in Pennsylvania. What did you take away from that conversation?
Kevin, thank you so much. We had our very first bipartisan regional Farm Bill listening session. We had that on the Friday of the Pennsylvania Farm Show, the 107th Pennsylvania Farm Show, and it was interesting to see the interest, and that was clearly measured by the fact they couldn't find any more chairs to put in the room. Several hundred people came out to attend. Had 9 members of Congress from North, South, East, and West. It was bipartisan, Republican and Democrat. And so one of the takeaways really was just the level of interest, how people are looking forward to the reauthorization of the Farm Bill. And the message I heard is they're looking forward to one that is on time, that is highly effective across all the titles of the Farm Bill, and it is bipartisan. A state affiliate of your organization, the Pennsylvania Cattlemen's Association, was well represented at the listening session. Frank Stolfus, he had the quote of the day. Actually, it has been repeated a number of times in my travels since, of people who watched that hearing. And that hearing was recorded. It wasn't live streamed, but recorded. And for anyone who would be interested in seeing it, there will be a link made available to do that. But, Mr. Stolfus made several points that very much aligned, certainly with my vision of the Farm Bill. He was very concerned that we not have a livestock title. We need to address livestock needs, but a livestock title may unfortunately draw undue and unwarranted attention in a negative way. And I heard that loud and clear. Some of the things that we certainly need to protect and explore, strengthening the risk management, disaster programs, and ensure our producers maintain access to voluntary conservation programs, and make certain that animal health programs like those that we built on in the 2018 Farm Bill, like the vaccine bank, have the resources necessary to protect against the spread of harmful animal disease. I think. And just as I did last Congress, I'm going to continue to oppose controversial, divisive provisions that open the door to really just onerous government mandates and burdensome regulations. As I always say, the three words that best define American agriculture, whether you're talking crops, livestock, or trees, is science, technology, and innovation. And the quote that Mr. Stolfus will be quoted I think continuously in many different areas. I thought it was great. He summed it up perfectly. He said the cattlemen have an incredible knack for taking blue sky and green grass and transforming it into valuable red meat. So
what are your priorities for the Farm Bill?
My priorities are obviously is to get a Farm Bill completed. There only really are three options for the Farm Bill. One, we let it expire. That is absolutely not an option. Because we would revert back to Dust Bowl era language that would hurt every American family and, quite frankly, every American farmer and rancher and rural communities. We could do an extension, but that's not that misses the opportunity to really make the improvements, the enhancements that from the lessons that we are learning and will continue to learn as we do intense hearings. And also move these regional listening sessions around the country. We started in Pennsylvania, but we're going to come to all the regions in the country over the next number of months. And finally, so we want a highly effective Farm Bill in the end that's done on time. So the only real option is to do our job and to get the reauthorization before the end of September this year, which is a challenge. That's a compressed time frame, but I'm confident that we will do our best working towards that. But we need to do it in a bipartisan way. We need to have the Farm Bill, I think, well on the road till the end of summer. We need to be working concurrently with the Senate so that in September we're able to get to hopefully a final passage.
So, Congressman Thompson, how can producers share their perspective on the critical provisions in the Farm Bill?
Well, just do what you have been doing. I got to tell you, I'm real proud of my cattlemen. We, not just in Pennsylvania, but all around the country. I've been in probably at least 30 different states the past 2 years, doing a barnstorming tour of American agriculture. And the cattlemen are always there. They always show up. They're part of the roundtables and the listening sessions. We've been out on the ranches, in the different aspects of livestock, from production to processing, and I appreciate that. So I want to just encourage to continue to be at the table. And that means taking the opportunity to educate your member of Congress, wherever they live. They're in a congressional district. That person may or may not be on the Agriculture Committee, but that's okay. Because at the end of the day, we're relying on getting this a bill that is always bipartisan in the end, the Farm Bill. It's going to take the votes of 435 members.
Congressman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Gavin, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Chairman Thompson, thanks so much for joining us. Now, don't forget, every day NCBA staff serves as the voice of U.S. cattle producers on a number of issues, including the Farm Bill. Help support this important work that protects our way of life by becoming a member. It's easy to do. Just call 866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll talk with the outgoing President Don Schiefelbein and get his thoughts on the past year. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
That certain time in the day when you can take a deep breath, knowing your work is done. That's the feeling Aspen products can create. Cost-effective alternatives to name brands that deliver the same results. Qualaxin is one of them. Use it to prevent and treat respiratory disease in your herd. Then breathe easy. Find them at Animal Health International.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Outgoing President Don Schiefelbein spent the past year representing cattlemen and women all across the country. This convention offers us a chance to say goodbye and thank you for a great year of service to the beef industry. Early last year, we took a closer look at what life is like for Don back home in Minnesota.
The lake country of central Minnesota is where Don Schiefelbein grew up, working alongside his dad, mom, and 8 brothers. Founded in 1955 by Don's dad, Frank, the Schiefelbein family farm has grown dramatically.
Well, it's a family operation consisting of 7 brothers, 5 nephews, and all their wives, etc. So it's a large family operation. Sitting here in central Minnesota, we have about 6,000 acres. We run about 1,000 cows in the spring and another 100 or so in the fall, so 1,100 cows. And we feed out cattle here, so we're pretty diversified. We'll feed out 5,000 to 10,000 calves here on the place as well.
Don's parents still live on the farm, enjoying their family and staying involved. Don believes his dad's innovative thinking is one key to the operation's success.
Simple things like how to feed cattle, he said, boy, wouldn't it be a lot smarter and wiser, instead of having the bunks on the inside of the pens, to have bunk line fences on the outside. So in 1950 he said, I'm going to put bunks on the outside. He is one of the very first up here in the Midwest to have bunks on the outside of the feedlot. And so that made a world of sense. And everything he's done, I think, has transferred to me and to my children as well, saying, boy, if there's a better way to do it, let's look at it. Let's not be confined to the way things have always been done.
As a result of that effort to always get better, Schiefelbein Angus bulls and females are prized in the marketplace today. And the family has continued to offer value to their customers with a calf buyback program that was started more than 25 years ago.
So every decision we make here, we either gain or fail ourselves as the result of the mating on the cattle we buy back. And if we make a mistake breeding an animal, we're ultimately the ones that pay. So we're paying a lot more attention to making sure they're bred right. So from a commercial cow-calf standpoint, you can imagine the sigh of relief they have knowing that the genetics they're buying are being kind of backed up by somebody with real dollars and cents saying, these cattle have to work or we ultimately have to pay. This is where we feed all our buyback calves. And the advantage here is when you put all the dollars we do into genetics, the reason we have this kind of barn where everything's covered is we take the environment out of the equation, right? So everything that's on display here is the result of how they do genetically, and therefore we can figure out to our customers how they need to improve genetically based on how we market their calves. Every individual calf in here will be marketed based on its own merit on a value-based grid. Then we'll summarize customers by their calves and give them basically a scorecard back that says, I did this for quality grade, I did this for yield grade, my feed conversion was this, my growth was this, etc., and allows them to fine-tune, if you will, their selection for their next round of bulls to fill in the needs for their next year's calf crop. Because we take the environment out, we're able to get these animals to perform at levels that we haven't been able to historically. So we'll get all these calves that by June to weigh 1,300 pounds or more. So the equivalent is they are 13 months of age, weighing 1,300 plus pounds and already being marketed to town.
After college, Don worked for Texas A&M Extension and then for the Limousine and Gelbvieh Breed Associations before returning to the family operation in 2003. Since then, he's served in a variety of leadership roles with the Minnesota Cattlemen, as well as for the Angus Association and as an officer for NCBA.
If you are going to be successful, your industry must be successful first. So if you aren't willing to put the time and effort into making that industry successful and serving that industry, then it's basically going to be a potluck whether or not your industry survives. So we've been very fortunate that we've had enough people that we can put efforts towards involving people in lots of different areas. And mine happens to be Angus and NCBA. I like to tell people I'm the blue-collar NCBA guy. I'm the guy who still gets his hands dirty, still drives the tractors, and I tell you what, if it wasn't for Bluetooth, I don't know how many meetings I'd miss, because Bluetooth through the tractors is where I do a lot of my meetings, etc. So that's kind of the background I come from. And what I believe, and I come from more of a servant-style leadership, where I really believe that if you listen closely enough to members, you're going to find the answers. So running a family operation our size is very similar, I believe, in that you listen a lot, you make sure everybody has their say, but you make sure everybody does it in a respectful manner so that we can all move forward together.
Going forward, Don sees great opportunity for the U.S. beef industry in a variety of areas, including exports.
U.S. beef is the blue ribbon, right, across the whole world, and it's because we're grain-fed beef. We are the premier product that everybody wants from every corner of the earth, and we're blessed to have the resources here in the United States, corn, to make that beef so valuable. So from our standpoint, pushing our beef out to the world is the next platform, right? And you can see just with the growth right now in U.S. beef demand, it's incredible.
With the experience he's had on his own family's farm, Don sees value in sharing the sustainability story of U.S. beef production.
Sustainability at its core is about doing things better and doing things more efficient. If you look at genetics, there is no means to do things better and more efficient than through genetic work. And so it's the quickest, easiest way to get to where we can be way more sustainable. It wasn't a generation ago when you used to feed out animals like this, and it would take you 2.5 years to get them to market. With our genetics and with our buyback coordination with our customers now, our goal now is to have every animal harvested at 13 months of age, weighing over 1,300 pounds. Boy, that is super sustainable from an efficiency standpoint, from a nutrient use standpoint, and that really has been a game changer in terms of allowing us to reduce our carbon footprint.
As he looks to his year as NCBA President, Don is serious about helping to lead NCBA's fight for policies and a business climate that supports cattle-producing families. It's all part of maintaining the opportunity to make a living on the land.
to me, I just sit in awe at how many people have the opportunity to do something they love to do and would love to do every day and do it with their family by their side. There's just not many places in this world that give you that opportunity. And you do it in the United States of America where you have the most freedom, and boy, there's days that you just look up and say, God, why me? Why did I get blessed with this? And it truly is a wonderful, wonderful experience.
And joining us now to talk about his year as NCBA President is Don Schiefelbein. Don, I'm curious, what are some of the things you're most proud of over the last year?
Oh, I mean, it's this NCBA, this cattle industry, such a huge ship. And getting everybody to kind of sail or go in the right direction, boy, that's the challenge, right? And I believe we've made a long strides towards going on the same ship, going in the right direction. So it's amazing to me to see people, when you go from one end of the industry to the other, when you go from one coast to the other, how we can come together and come say, hey, this is the path we want forward for our industry.
And I really appreciate both the leadership and the rhetoric you've provided in that all for one kind of message. You've had a chance to talk to a lot of people as you've traveled around the country. I'm curious, what are some of the key learnings that you've had this year?
Well, they're sick of the infighting. They want people to work together, to cooperate, to get along. And when you look at it, it makes financial sense to cooperate and get along. And I think that's kind of the prevailing message. And I know there's some issues that are a little sticky, and sometimes we don't always agree. And I think if we can come together, and it seems like we are, that, boy, we can discuss issues. That doesn't mean we have to yell at each other, be angry at each other, but let's come out with the best path forward again.
Don, I remember reading an article you wrote, maybe last spring sometime, talking about the enemy within us and relating it to some of the family experiences you've had in your operation. I think it's something that a lot of us can relate to. Tell folks more about that for those who may not have read that article.
Well, too many families and too many organizations concentrate on what I call wedge issues. Those are issues that, I mean, they're very complex, and smart people may absolutely disagree on what the right answer is, and that's okay, but we can't use all our energies fighting these wedge issues. We need to figure out what we can do to pull the sled together, get in a direction we need to go. Otherwise, we do that in potentially harming circular firing squad, right? We're doing more damage to each other than going in a cooperative spirit.
That's very well said. Now, earlier in the show, we visited with Congressman Glenn Thompson, who, of course, is chairman of the House Ag Committee. Why do you think it's so important for NCBA to be so involved in the crafting of this next farm bill?
Well, especially as we move forward with the legislators that we're dealing with today, is they don't know our industry nearly as well as we've had some in the past. So it's very important that we make friends, begin to tell our story, and make sure they understand what our priorities are. And of course, our priorities this coming year are how can we do the livestock risk management program that allows more people to be able to take some of these ups and downs in the markets away and allow them to be successful in their operation, regardless of their size, whether they have 1 cow or 1,000 cows.
That's a great point. Now, we're kicking off a convention. It's going to be a great week here in New Orleans. What is the value of this event to the beef cattle industry at large?
Well, I like to say it's invaluable. When you get together and you start to visit with the likes of the who's who of the beef industry here, if you can't take something home from this convention that makes you either a better businessman, a better cattleman, or just a better steward of our resources, you haven't been paying attention, because that's what it's all about. The relationships we've met, you and I have met here, 20, 30 years ago now, right. And look at the relationships still going. So to me, build those relationships, decide where we're going to go from a path forward, and start doing things for the beef industry together.
Don, we're looking forward to a great week. Thank you for your service to our industry and the leadership you've provided.
Thanks, Kevin.
To keep up to date on the issues facing beef farmers and ranchers and to help make a difference in the industry, why not join Don as a member of NCBA? It's easy to do. Just call 866-233-3872, or you can visit the website ncba.org. Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, you'll learn how Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics can add years of productivity to your herd. Don't go away. We'll have more right after this.
Grass is the center of our universe. We've got to have a grass program that we can count on and plan on. That's what we need to sustain us, to keep us growing, to keep us prospering.
Hi everybody, I'm Tom Elliott with John Deere.
Cow longevity is important to the economics of all cow-calf operations, and producers are always looking for efficient females that'll produce strong, healthy calves for many years. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Kate Maher has a look at how Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics have improved the longevity and profitability of two Nebraska operations.
Huffman Land and Cattle and the Harwood Ranch are not very far from each other in northwest Nebraska. The Huffman and Harwood families have more in common, though, than just their proximity. They also agree that sustained production is essential to the success of a cow herd.
The longevity and the fertility is probably the most important aspect of our operation, because once she's 7 or 8, she's really paid for. So if she can produce calves for another 12 or up to 12 or 13 years old, that's basically 5, 6 free calves that we get by not having to replace her.
Our cows we keep till they're 12, 13 years old, and they perform pretty well till then. And that's important to us because when you raise your own heifers, it takes you quite a while to get some payback from that. What you've got invested into them and so on, it takes you a few years to make a profit.
Although each of these families face different challenges, they both see the value of breeding maternal function into their herd, which is why they rely on Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics to help produce superior females.
So the reason that we started using the Balancer genetics is to create the perfect hybrid female. Our perfect genetic cow is going to be a quarter Hereford, a quarter Gelbvieh, and 50% Angus, kind of a 3-way composite. So what we're trying to do with that composite cow is ultimately take full value of the hybrid vigor, part of what we're doing here, and adding that little bit of crossbreeding to get those extra few pounds or just a more efficient animal.
The fertility is great. We hardly have any empties. The last 2 years we've had no empties in the breed back on the first calf heifers. And same way with the whole herd, if we have 1 or 2%, that's a lot for us. Some years we just have a couple out of the whole herd, so they're very fertile and do very well.
Gelbvieh and Balancer females are really known for their fertility, for their longevity, and for the ability to raise heavy weaning calf year after year. These females breed up early, they rebreed the second season, and then they remain in the herd a long time.
A longer productive cow life not only adds profit to an operation, it also helps to make it sustainable.
Sustainability really starts with the female, and so when these females are fertile and they have a long productive life, that really contributes to overall ranch profitability because you don't have to be replacing your females as often. And so, it takes 6 to 7 years to pay for a cow, and if she can produce another 6 to 7 years after that, that's gravy in a rancher's pocket.
Another benefit to Gelbvieh and Balancer cows is they still perform, even when drought or other weather issues reduce the amount and quality of feed available. That's due in part to their moderate size, which allows them to consume less while still weaning heavier calves.
And these Gelbvieh and Balancer females do really well in adverse conditions. In August of 2021, the U.S. Meat Animal Research Center at Clay Center, Nebraska, released the findings of a recently concluded study that found Gelbvieh females were the most moderate mature size of any of the major beef breeds. I really think that these moderate mature females have lower maintenance, lower input requirements, and the ability to efficiently breed back and then wean that heavy calf.
When they go out to pasture, they've got to be an animal that can utilize what's there. And these balancer cattle really do well on just most anything, actually.
The best drought management plan is to have the best cows that can manage the drought. Last year was one of the most severe droughts in this country, and we calved on grass, we paired out to grass, and they didn't have hay, and everybody else is buying probably as expensive hay ever in the history of Nebraska. Our cows are grazing, so the profitability of that is really tremendous.
The cows of both the Huffman and Harwood families are in high demand because the Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics fit the needs of their customers.
So our balancer calves that come out of our system, we sell primarily video lots on Superior Livestock. Those guys don't buy those cattle year in, year out if they're not good, you know.
We get quite a bit of feedback on our calves, and everybody's always really impressed, and constantly year after year have quite a few people in the crowd or even buyers that say that some of the best cattle they've seen.
Reporting from Nebraska, I'm Kate Maher for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
To learn more about the advantages of Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics, visit the American Gelbvieh Association website at gelbvieh.org. Or if you're going to be here in New Orleans for the trade show, just stop by booth 449 to find out in person how Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics can improve the profitability of your operation. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll visit the demonstration arena to see how education about low-stress cattle handling can make a huge difference for your farm or ranch. That story when we return. Stay with us.
Have you taken a hard look at the performance of your cow herd? More producers are turning to the proven genetics offered by Gelbvieh and Balancer females.
We like the Balancers just because they're really good mamas, they got good feet and good udders.
So the reason that we started using the Balancer genetics is to create the perfect hybrid female. To have that composite hybrid female that lasts a long time, has moderate mature status, and highly fertile.
Moderate-framed Gelbvieh and Balancer females stay in your herd longer and offer outstanding performance.
Gelbvieh and Balancer females are really known for their fertility, for their longevity, and for the ability to raise heavy weaning calf year after year.
Make the smart, sustainable, and profitable choice with Gelbvieh and Balancer females. Find out more at gelbvieh.org.
Welcome back. Safe and effective cattle handling can lower the risk of injury to cattle and people while improving the performance of both. Those are two things that can have a real impact on your bottom line. Let's toss it over to Cattlemen reporter Russell Nemitz for more.
Well, one of the highlights each year here at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show are the live cattle demonstrations and, of course, those low-stress cattle handling workshops. And with us now is Dean Fish, an Arizona rancher, and, of course, he helps the NCBA head up their stockmanship and stewardship program. And, Dean, we're back in New Orleans for another NCBA trade show and cattle industry convention. Talk about this year's event down here on the convention floor that actually involves live cattle.
Oh my goodness, I'm tickled to again be back. I'm, number one, a proud NCBA member, and I appreciate all that NCBA does for us, and in particular, the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Stockmanship and Stewardship Program. So I'm very fortunate, as you said, to come down here and help put together a Stockmanship and Stewardship demonstration for our participants to kind of see some effective stockmanship, some low-stress animal handling, kind of maybe bring some ideas that they didn't have or kind of show how different systems work. So we brought in about 400 tons of dirt. We've got about 20 tons of steel that are going between two arenas here. And we'll have Wednesday night, we've got a special treat. We have Mr. Kent Ledoux, who is a Louisiana cowboy. He's going to talk about stockmanship and that particular style of stockmanship that they use here. And then all day Thursday and Friday at the convention, we'll have Kurt Pate and Ron Gill both demonstrating a whole plethora of different stockmanship and stewardship topics. topics throughout the day, and we kind of switch them up both days so that if you have meetings in the morning, you can catch some afternoon sessions or vice versa. So we kind of flip those around a little bit. In addition to that, that's one arena. The other arena that we have is what we call shoots and scales, and so I'm always tickled to come to this trade show. This is 7 acres of just all kinds of really cool stuff. But shoots are probably the question that I get most at home. Which shoot do you like, or what's the best shoot out there? And I think all of these shoots, have some features and some certain things. You got to kind of find the one that fits you and fits your situation. But the cool thing is here we'll have 7 manufacturers, both hydraulic and manual shoots, that'll get to show their shoots live with cattle. You'll get to go on the floor, test them out. You'll see them work with cattle. You'll be able to talk to the experts about them, compare them right side by side. So that's the Shoots and Scale Showdown, and we'll have those Wednesday night, all day Thursday and Friday as well.
So lots of real cool stuff and informative issues and demonstrations going to take place. I just want to ask you, what's it like to transform one of these convention centers into an actual cattle handling demonstration type arena? Because truly the kid in me wants to get down and play in this dirt.
Oh, it's incredible. So, we've had such good partners here in Louisiana. With finding the dirt, we had to find the right type of dirt so we don't cause dust everywhere. I mean, there's so many little intricacies. Prefert has been such a wonderful partner. They provide all of the fencing around here, for both demonstrations, so that's safe and effective, and we try to keep cattle off the trade show floor, trying to find the right type of cattle, because we want to showcase, these good Louisiana cattle and these good Louisiana breeders. And Mid-South Cattle Company is providing some real nice cattle for us. Kent Ledoux is bringing a couple of really nice horses for us. So, kind of pulling all those pieces together is certainly fun and a challenge, but it's always neat to see it all put together. So we'll put in 3 days of kind of getting it all set up. We'll do our demonstrations, and then we've got to just start tearing down as soon as that convention closes Friday.
Hey, last question. We'll just wrap things up. More and more cattlemen and cattlewomen across the country truly are embracing this low-stress cattle handling, things like beef quality assurance, and everything that you and your team here at this convention will be showcasing this week, right?
That's correct, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think that stockmanship and low-stress cattle handling and all those things are something that doesn't cost you anything, but you get a tremendous return, not only in economic value, but just enjoyment of being around your livestock and being around your families and so forth. And so, I've drank the Kool-Aid. I am 100% on board. I love this low-stress stockmanship, the low-stress cattle handling and stockmanship. And, I invite everybody to come check it out, to see what it's about, and, maybe there's a little piece that you can take home with you.
Absolutely. Well, the Kool-Aid is pretty delicious once you finally take a sip of it, and a lot of good will come out of something by attending one of these cattle demonstrations and low-stress cattle handling workshops here at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, this year happening this week here in New Orleans. Get all the details online at convention.ncba.org and join us right here in the Big Easy. With that, Kevin, I'll go ahead and send it back to you.
Now be sure to tune in to Cattlemen over the next several weeks as we bring you interviews with beef industry experts and other highlights from the Cattle Industry Convention. You can also follow NCBA on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for live updates on all the happenings at this year's event. Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll take a closer look at the Environmental Stewardship Award program and its value to the beef industry. Stay with us. We'll be back with more from New Orleans right after this.
Accurate information is essential to maximizing your profitability. That's why for decades, cattle producers have trusted NCBA's Integrated Resource Management Red Book to help them keep better records. The pocket-sized Red Book has more than 100 pages to help you keep track of valuable production information like herd health, pasture usage, and AI breeding and sales.
We really encourage all of our producers to use a tool like the Red Book. There's some great information in here to help you implement better management practices, as well as tracking calving records and breeding records.
2023 Red Books are on sale now. You can even customize your Red Book with a company name or logo on orders of 100 or more. Go to ncba.org for all the details.
One of the highlights of this year's convention is the announcement of the 2022 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. These are the nation's best cattle and livestock operations, and they're honored for their outstanding stewardship practices and conservation achievements. Here's a look at the most recent national winner of the award, J.Y. Ferry & Son of Utah.
J.Y. Ferry & Son is a family-owned ranch located on the Bear River Delta in Utah. The Ferries have been living and working on this land for more than a century.
My great-grandfather immigrated here right after the railroad at the turn of the century. We're a family operation. I'm fourth generation. I operate on our ranch with my brother, and I have a son who's coming along on the fifth generation.
We are standing on the shoulders of our ancestors that came out here over 120 years ago. We take it serious, the responsibility we have for the legacy of their past and for the future of this operation.
Water has been a critical factor in the long-term success of J.Y. Ferry & Son. The Ferries consider the Bear River the heart of their operation, since it provides irrigation water for crops and stock water for cattle.
Where we're located is the very end of the Bear River, where it deltas out, right where it enters into the Great Salt Lake. And so we have this water resource that's really unique. It creates this oasis in the desert.
And so we have to be mindful of that and make sure that we are practicing conservation 365 days out of the year, 24/7, because we capture the water, make use of it before it goes into the Great Salt Lake.
Over the years, the Ferry family has removed invasive species along the Bear River and fenced their cattle away from sensitive riparian areas. They also relocated a feed yard that used to be next to the river.
It turned out to be a really good opportunity for us to kind of get a new, updated feed yard, as well as moving an operation that could potentially have some conflict with the environment into an area that was more stable.
We tore it down. We tore out the cement and relocated that to a more conducive place as far as the feedlot operation is concerned, and also the environment. And right now, where it used to be cattle, it's now pumpkins for a pumpkin patch.
A majority of the range used by the Ferry family for grazing is considered wetlands. Historically, grazing wetlands has been viewed in a negative light. But through years of careful hard work, the Ferries have demonstrated benefits to the practice. The biggest was when they discovered one of Utah's most noxious and invasive weeds is actually quite palatable to cattle.
Our cow herd is wetland based, and the vegetation that's in the wetland is varied, but the one that's a challenge is a species called Phragmites. Phragmites is an invasive weed, and the reason it's invasive because you cannot naturally control it. Historically, Phragmites has been controlled by herbicide, by spraying it to kill it. But we've discovered in our own operation that we can control Phragmites by grazing it.
For when you spray it, you kill everything. When you burn it, you kill everything. When you drought it, you kill everything. And we have been places where they haven't had cattle ever, and it is just a thick jungle mess of Phragmites. You can't walk through it. There's no habitat whatsoever for anything, for any birds or any ducks or geese or anything. And that's where we come in, because you have cattle that are trained, recognize what the plant is. They will graze on it, select it out, and all of a sudden you are turning a disaster into a grazing opportunity.
It pushes the birds out and the wildlife species that would traditionally use these wetland areas. And so by grazing it, what you do is you're pushing back, you're preventing it from spreading. And what we've been able to show is that done the right way, proper management of cattle in these wetland areas actually improves the wetlands. And so the cattle are a very important tool that we use.
Federal and state agencies have also caught on to the benefits of grazing wetlands. And for the past several years, the Ferries have run some of their cattle on public lands.
We graze on U.S. wetlands managed by the Department of Fish and Wildlife Service, and we're able to control and maintain and hold back the spreading of the Phragmites. And the end result is you have a multiple use benefit for cattle, and you have much greater ducks and geese and shorebirds because they have an open supply of nesting areas and so forth.
We're benefiting other producers as well by showing how we can turn something that's a problem for the state or problem for government agencies and benefit our industry. And really, I think that's a huge success story. There are literally thousands of cattle now in the valley grazing on Phragmites every summer on these different areas.
Without the cows, we couldn't accomplish our Phragmites control objectives. So it's a super important tool that we have in the toolbox. And without grazing, without the fairy family, I think we would not be doing as well.
The sustainable practices the fairies are using today are helping to ensure that future generations will be able to work this land and protect its natural beauty.
Sustainability to me means managing the resource in such a way that it's here for generations. My kids and my grandkids can continue to farm and ranch and enjoy this beautiful area the way I do.
As we think about the improvements that we've made, I don't think that previous generations would even recognize it. And I think that our efforts would be looked on with great pleasure.
Every day I'm out on this place, I look at it and say, this is what my grandfather started. What am I doing with it? Because I feel there's going to be an accountability. And I need to be able to proudly say that I did the best I could, took what was here, improved upon it, and passed it on.
One of the 2022 Regional Stewardship Award winners will be named the national winner at April's Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. It's an important event where members of the cattle industry join NCBA's Washington-based policy team for 3 days of advocacy on Capitol Hill. You can get all the details on how to attend at the website ncba.org. Still ahead, we've got details on what it takes to set up the NCBA Trade Show, which is always a sight you've got to see to believe. That story when we return. Stay with us.
Get jazzed as the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show returns to New Orleans February 1st through 3rd, 2023. Experience the oldest and largest convention for the beef cattle business and a trade show like you've never seen before. Get up close and personal with the latest techniques and equipment on display. Invest in yourself and the beef cattle industry's future. Learn, network, and relax in the Big Easy February 1st through 3rd, 2023. Registered today by visiting convention.ncba.org.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hi, I'm Jesse Fulton. Now that you've already become BQA certified, I want to talk to you about the BQA self-assessment tools. There are 3 self-assessment tools available to producers: cow-calf, stocker backgrounder, and feed yard. These self-assessment tools can be taken back to your operation to help you identify any improvements needed on your operation with your best management practices, procedures, or cattle handling practices. Specifically to feed yards, the Feed Yard Self-Assessment Tool can help you prepare for any third-party auditing that you may be subjected to on your operation. To find out more about the BQA Self-Assessment Tools, visit bqa.org.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Welcome back. Putting together the 2023 Cattle Industry Convention here in New Orleans took a monumental effort, and the NCBA Trade Show alone requires months of planning and a few hard days to set up. Here's Russell Nemitz with more on these efforts.
Now, don't get me wrong, profitability in the beef cattle business does start with the cow, but it also means embracing the latest in ag technology products and services. And cattle women and cattlemen can do exactly that this week here in New Orleans at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. Now, with us from NCBA is Emily DeSormo, and we're going to talk about the NCBA Trade Show because attendees can do exactly that. We have acre upon acre of all this latest in ag technology products and services. Emily, tell us more.
Yes, so we have 7 acres of the latest and greatest in the beef and agriculture industry. I like to say that the NCBA Trade Show is your solution center for everything that you need on your operation. Our exhibitors are here to give you solutions to your problems or anything that may come up on your operation day to day.
Now, there's also an opportunity for attendees not just to touch and feel all of this iron and all sorts of things, but there also is an opportunity to hear from educational speakers about some very important topics in the beef cattle industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, like I said, we're a solution center that also comes with education. So we have everything from 2 arenas right here on the show floor that have live cattle in it. You can see side-by-side comparisons of chutes and scales. You can even see how to properly handle your cattle with low stress management skills. And then we also have a couple other educational centers right here on the main aisle that we're on. From our learning lounge to our cattle chats, they're perfect opportunities to really get up and close with these exhibitors, learn about their products, learn what you can do, and really just take something back home with you.
Well, obviously, folks at home can see we're just getting set up here at the convention center for the trade show, but there's still time if folks are watching and want to drive in and join us this week here in New Orleans, because you can register for one day, you can register for a couple days. Tell us about how we can take advantage of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So registration never closes for the NCBA trade show and CattleCon as a whole. So we have everything from one-day only trade show registrations to multi-day trade show only registrations if you want to come check out everything we have going on here right now. You can also do one-day only convention registrations, and that will get you in the trade show as well as everything else that's happening that day here at the convention. So drive on in. We got plenty of opportunities for you to be able just to walk up to registration and get yourself in.
Absolutely. Well said. Again, it's the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show underway this week here in New Orleans. As Emily said, there's still time to join us for all of this fun we're going to have here in Louisiana this week. For all the details and more, you can jump online and visit convention.ncba.org, and we'll see you here in New Orleans.
Don't forget, you can tune in to Cattlemen over the next several weeks as we bring you a lot of great stories and information from convention. You can also follow NCBA on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for live updates on all the happenings at this year's event. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.